Hey everybody, this is Ciders here today doing a tasting, but we're throwing in another element today.
We missed you.
We missed you. Yeah. We haven't done a lot of videos, but this is a cider and snack series. Trev, can you talk about cider and snacks a little bit?
Yeah. So what we're going to do is be talking about a cider in particular with a snack. Today we have Spencer's Beef Jerky, and then we're going to talk about how they pair well together. So we're going to be doing tons of different types of snacks. Beef jerky, candy, whatever it might
Chips,
be. So.
Yeah. And then we're going to try to pair something that's regional, or if you can get it all across the U.S., then we'll try to pair those as well, so you yourself can put this together.
Yep.
So
today we have Courthouse Creek cider. This is from Virginia. This one in particular is a small batch. It's called Fundamental. Mm-hmm. It's made with Hughes and Harrison apples, and it's been aged for 13 months. So it's a pretty, I guess you could say, sophisticated cider.
Yeah, and we do have a couple other ciders of theirs here today. The good thing about the ones that I'm going to show on camera here is you can actually purchase these. This one we couldn't find on the website, correct?
Yep.
So it might just be one of those specialty small batch deals, but their other ciders, fantastic, a lot of really great flavors, and the way we're going to describe this one today, those kind of take on some similar qualities. So if you like that,
it should fit for pairing with this, which you'll see later because the flavor profile will fit. But yeah, so I said this one today we have is aged for 13 months. It's 8.2% ABV. So we'll give it a smell here. It's a lot of apple skin, and it's kind of buttery a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely get like the buttery qualities. I think kind of that aging process usually gives it that essence.
Probably a little malolactic fermentation in there. It's a little bit hazy actually, which is good, and you can see at the bottom of the bottle, which you might not be able to see from here, but you can see a little bit of the yeast settling on the bottom there, which is it's a good thing. That tells me it's natural and all ready to drink. So
yeah. It is a good color though. I don't think we have, most of the ciders we have, you can kind of see right through. Even there are other ones that we have on the table today, a little bit of a haze, so you can see through it, but you have a little bit of that quality. But definitely on the nose, you get quite a bit of that barrel essence, which I like. And
there's like almost no carbonation. I'd say this is pretty much still. There's definitely some carbonation there, I think, but probably from natural natural carbonation. Yeah. So it's very, I'd say almost still, but it's got a little bit of that to give it some punch. But the flavor is very, very apple forward.
It's super intense too. Like you said, no carbonation, so it doesn't really punch you on the front of the tongue, but it starts to hit you on the back of the tongue. That buttery flavor rolling to the back, and then you get that little tartness, that little kick right on the back of the tongue. Pretty good on that front.
Yep. So I do think there's a little malolactic fermentation that happens that mellows it out, makes it more tart, smooth, buttery, more Chardonnay-y, I guess you could say, aged in oak type flavor, but definitely apple forward flavor. So pairs really well with something like what we have today for the beef jerky, which is a little bit of a spicier type beef jerky. So,
and this comes from Spencer's Jerkin Jerky, so kind of a mouthful there. But Spencer McDonald, the CEO and founder, sent us some of this stuff. Can you describe this flavor a little bit, Trev?
Yeah, it's their original flavor. So you can see definitely a homemade, handmade product.
Very thin.
Very thin. Probably high quality meat in here. It's very, very thin actually, so it comes out a little crispy from the dehydration, and you can see the little chili flakes and seasonings you have on there. It's pretty prominent. I don't know if you can see that, but
it's pretty brittle. So as you start to pull it apart, I mean it's kind of chunking, but what we've noticed from tasting this is it's actually really tender, and you'd think that it was super dry and hard. I mean, just looking at it in the bag, it looks like it would just kind of tear into those pieces, be rough to chew, but it's incredibly tender.
Ooh. So a little spice in it.
But
chili flakes.
Yeah, it's got quite a kick to it. But what I like about this jerky is it is giving you that really strong punch, which this is nice and mellow for the most part, without that last bite. But you get a lot of that heat. I'm glad this isn't an ASMR video because it wouldn't sound good.
Nobody wants to hear you chew. But yeah, so the combination of this beef jerky being meaty and savory with a little bit of heat really combines well with this, because this is tart. It's not sweet, but it has a perceived sweetness, kind of like their other ciders because they're very natural. It pairs well with the heat, so it's kind of the heat and sweet thing without overly being sugary, because this I would think is not very sugary. It's probably dried out all the way, but it's that perceived sweetness from the tart acids.
Yeah, that buttery quality plus the savory quality. Obviously, these things generally pair. It's, you know, part of a charcuterie board is meat similar, but this one actually gets, you know, pretty spicy, I would say. And then that buttery quality really does blend well together. The back of the heat in the back of your throat sits there, and it meets the tartness at some point. So that buttery quality just really soothes the front of the tongue, but then meets the tartness and the spice on the back of the tongue. So it's actually a really good combination, and I was kind of weary a little bit because this is on the spicier side. Right. But this mellows it out in a good way. Yeah, it doesn't bulldoze the flavor of the cider, and it kind of pairs just perfectly together. But this cider, like Nolan said, if she had a charcuterie board, this would be a pretty legit charcuterie board. Forget the fancy meats. Get this fancy meat right here. Jerky. Everyone loves it. Yeah, so it's Spencer's Jerkin Jerky, and the website is Spencer's Jerkin Jerky. Jerkin is Jerkin, jerky.com. And he has quite a few flavors on there. What was some of those? Do you remember? There's a couple other flavors, some with honey in there to get a little bit of sweetness back, some other spicy type notes in there as well. So it's got quite a few different options, and you can buy it off their website as well. And you can get this, like I said, in Virginia. I do not think they have this online, but you can get it locally from there. So you'd be able to pair these ciders with the jerky like we're doing here today. But if you're ever in Virginia, this is definitely a must-stop shop. And I mean, this one in particular is pretty fantastic. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by that buttery quality, but because it does meet up with that tartness on the back of the tongue, there isn't a lot of carbonation, so you're really getting that full flavor. There's not a lot to distract you. Yeah, it's hitting your tongue and staying there. It's not bubbling off or hitting that carbonation kind of coming away from your tongue. You're getting that flavor the whole time. Yeah. And it definitely, like Nolan said, a sweet roll. And then this is just that little bit of kick. So it's kind of fun to go back and forth a little bit. Fire. But not too spicy. Yeah, not too spicy. So we're not spice heads. I mean, we watch Hot Ones, but I don't think I can do that. So this is not too high on the scale. So it really does blend well together. So we want to thank you for coming to our first Cider and Snacks CS Cider Scene, as you see, and we'll have a lot more of these. So get snacking. Yeah. Oh, there's a tagline right there. Uh oh. Get drinking, get snacking.